right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Special Hour podcast. I am one of your hosts, MrDean44. Today, as usual, we're joined by DonovanDud.
Hi there, it's Donovan. Glad to be back after my crusade in Washington, D.C.
Well, and how was your crusade in Washington, D.C.?
Well, I did steal the Constitution, and now I'm wanted in all 50 states. And I also did play pickleball a week earlier.
Oh, okay. Well, I love that you followed up your story about a felony with some wholesome pickleball.
Yeah, wholesome pickleball. Tennis is still better.
Yes, and we fuck you. But and then we also have IvanAvi, which is our first special guest on the series. So thank you for joining us. So Ivan, tell the people a little bit about what you do over on your channel.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be the first guest. I have a YouTube channel where I do, my main thing is like retrospectives on old games that I either have or have not played. I've done other little videos here and there, but the main thrust of my channel is the retrospectives, which has been proven by the low view counts on anything else that I've done on my channel. So
it's all good. It's all about just trying to slowly get your audience kind of on one cohesive track.
Yeah. And you've caught me at kind of a crux because I'm starting a second channel so I can leave my main channel free to do. We got
our special hour exclusive. No one else knows about this yet but us. I'm so happy we get to be the ones to break the news.
This podcast is sponsored by Ivan's second channel.
Yes. We have our first sponsor as well. This is great. Yeah. All right. Well, so Ivan, has anything interesting happened for you? I mean, of course, we had Donovan breaking the law, but is anything as captivating over on your end?
My life is just me taking care of a child from dusk till dawn and trying to squeeze in some YouTube videos in my spare time.
Well, that's definitely more noble. Definitely more noble. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and kind of get started with our first topic of the day, and this is a pretty loaded one, so I'm sure there's a lot to unpack here, but we have Microsoft shutting down multiple studios, including other projects as well, and this is nothing new. Microsoft's kind of a known tyrant, I feel like, whenever it comes to buying different properties and studios and then just not utilizing them at all.
Why make our own games when we can just buy the rest?
And then slash the employees.
Yeah, but they buy. It's not even like we buy the games. It's like we buy the developers for the games, and then we just don't use what they're capable of whatsoever. I mean, of course, historically, the first famous example of this was Microsoft buying Rare, and then we all saw what happened with that. But
Banjo,
it really is just
nuts and bolts. That game scares me.
Yes, Ivan is the banjo expert on the podcast today.
What are your thoughts on nuts and bolts?
Yes. I've never played it, so I'm not a great expert on banjo.
Never mind.
Fake banjo fan over here.
No, I'm a real banjo fan because I stick to the real games.
And then also a part of the story that was interesting is a little bit later, I think it was revealed that Microsoft, not just the gaming division, but just the company as a whole, laid off 10,000 employees or 9,000 or something crazy like that, kind of out of its pursuit to explore AI, which is just really depressing.
What's really weird is that haven't they reported some pretty good numbers recently, and them touting all companies do this, but they tout how so successful their ventures into Windows 11 or Xbox Game Pass have been. And yet we're still gonna fire you.
Yeah,
but we're doing great. Thanks for your help.
In one breath, they'll talk about how this was their most profitable period ever, and then in the next, they're laying off actual thousands of employees.
So you're doing good, but you're still gonna fire people?
Yeah, what they did with Tango Gameworks. Tango Gameworks released Hi-Fi Rush, which was beloved and I think won awards. And they closed down that studio in the same year.
I remember there was a quote, I don't know what Xbox exec said this, or maybe it was a Microsoft exec. They're like, we need to invest more in these smaller studios and because they make great games. Yeah, you did, but then you also closed them and fired them maybe a day ago before you said that quote? That's really funny. and shows how out of touch maybe the core Microsoft executives are.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally Tango Gameworks was exactly what they were talking about in that quote, and they closed it.
I think like Microsoft and their investment into like AI and Microsoft Copilot into Windows 11, it's just so excessive and so forced. But the buzzword of AI really gets all the executives and the shareholders really talking, and that's all they want to focus on. And in doing so, they're probably using AI to cannibalize their own employees. I have no doubt they probably use Microsoft Copilot to replace some of their employees that they just fired, and not just in the game in their Xbox division, but in the core Microsoft division as well. I probably have no doubt about that, and it's just really infuriating to see such a successful company. They're what, Ivan, you just said they had like record-breaking profits this past quarter, and they're still firing people, and especially for the game devs, when game development, as we talked about in the last episode, is getting much harder, and AI is sort of alleviating the harsh pressures. It's just really disappointing where the industry is coming to, and like it's just heartbreaking to see this giant company just trampling all over the place and fumbling the studios that they buy and they invest so much into. They're just dropping the ball all the time.
Yeah, well, and we kind of touched on Game Pass a minute ago, but I've always kind of wondered the direction that Microsoft has been going in general, because it feels like every year they're giving us less and less of a reason to even want to buy an Xbox in the first place. Because like, between like how powerful of a subscription Game Pass has become, where it's like kind of diminishing the whole aspect of buying a game in the first place versus just subscribing to a subscription, and then also them making all of their games kind of like available on other platforms, especially like the Windows PC, which of course that's not really impacting their bottom line since they own Windows. But it just kind of begs the question of like, what is Microsoft's intention with like the role that they're trying to play in the gaming market? Because like obviously Xbox sales is, the worst out of the big three at the moment. So it's interesting to see that, as well as the whole aspect of them really leaning into AI development instead of using, like human
People
creativity.
with souls.
Yeah, it's really sad.
They want to have their cake and eat it too. Like, they want to be this producer of video games. They have their own console, like the Xbox is like competing, but they don't want to commit to exclusivity or like providing any reason to own an Xbox. Like their big marketing push not too long ago was like just a picture with like every electronic device you can think of, and it was like, this is an Xbox, this is an Xbox, your TV is an Xbox, and it's just diluting the whole idea of Xbox as a console.
Xbox is like, I don't think Microsoft has admitted that they have lost like the quote unquote console war with Xbox, and it shows in their their recent actions, maybe for the past 10 years, where they're slowly transitioning Xbox to be more of a a service based gaming platform. But at that point, it kind of, yeah, as you said, Ivan, it kind of dilutes the entire Xbox brand, because what is an Xbox anymore? It certainly is the console, yes, but the console is like, it's draw power. It's not as lustful as it once was. It's barely even talked to. Xbox is popular, yes, but it is nowhere near as popular as it was in like the 360 days. It's kind of like, honestly, a laughing stock of the gaming industry nowadays, with PlayStation still, they're kind of fumbling, but they're still the top dog when it comes to like, the PS5 versus the Xbox. And then you have Nintendo that just, does Nintendo things. So, and then there's Xbox. What does Xbox do?
It's also just so fascinating, because if we rewind the clock just 10 years ago, Nintendo and Xbox were like in the opposite. Well, Xbox definitely wasn't like the leader of the pack, but Nintendo was like the laughing stock with the Wii U just 10 years ago. And, you know, while the Xbox One certainly wasn't like a roaring success or anything, it definitely wasn't as bad as like the position that it feels like they're at now. Because even though Microsoft's making a lot of money, it just kind of feels like they're shooting themselves in the foot in the gaming space like time and time again. So, you know.
What Xbox exclusives do people even play these days? And also, are there any Xbox exclusives in general
No, because
anymore?
all of them are just available on PC. Like, I literally have the Halo Master Chief Collection on Steam. Like, you don't need an Xbox anymore to play. I mean, unless if I'm wrong, I don't know off the top of my head any games that you can only play on an Xbox anymore.
For like Halo Infinite, it has its problems. But like what 343 Industries, now known as Halo Studios, is doing, you know, they kind of fumbled the ball with Infinite's multiplayer. Now they're going back to the basics and doing a Halo Combat Evolved remake now. And then there's another one of Xbox's big franchises, Gears of War. I think they're doing another remake of that. So there's just like nothing new coming out.
Well, that's just a general conversation about like where the gaming space is at. Not even just Microsoft. Like it feels like more and more games are being remade instead of new ideas being brought up.
I don't remember the last Sony exclusive that wasn't a remake or a remaster.
Like Astrobot.
Astrobot is a good one. Yeah.
Stellar Blade used to be a PlayStation exclusive. Used to be his keyword.
The Astrobot was like so successful because people were so refreshed by it. Like it's such a rare thing to get a game like that. That's just a solid single player experience. Like
yeah, that's why it also makes me so happy that game won Game of the Year, because I think it's gonna kind of hopefully it'll show, you know, Sony and these other companies that hey, people do want these things. And, you know, like, while everyone loves to make fun of Sony for not having any exclusives on the PlayStation 5, at least they have something. I mean, Microsoft, I don't even know what they have.
At least they have something, and they make pretty good games.
Yeah.
What does Microsoft have?
I mean, like
what do they have? Genuinely.
I can sit here and complain about Sony all I want, because while I certainly would call myself a fan of the PlayStation, I mean, they definitely should probably be making more exclusives, but like, I mean, I don't even know what Microsoft's. I mean, I'm pretty sure the main goal of Microsoft is to position the Xbox as kind of a way of putting Windows inside of people's homes outside of just like PCs. I mean, I kind of still think that like what they're doing is kind of dumb. I mean, not even just the AI part, but just like the way they're going about pushing the Xbox. Because like the only reason to have an Xbox is Game Pass, which aren't you able to use Game Pass on a PC anyway?
Yeah.
So
and wait, I'm not entirely sure, but do games leave Game Pass sometimes, right?
I think so. I mean,
so you don't.
I'm definitely not a proponent of just buying a subscription service to play your games.
Hey, Game Pass it's a really great deal, but it comes at a cost.
But that's also part of the thing that's, you know, shooting Microsoft in the foot, because if Game Pass is offered on PC and it's such a good deal, then why the hell would someone get an Xbox? So, you know.
Yeah, again, I don't think they care about the actual box anymore. I think it's better for Microsoft to have a foot in the industry than not have one at all. So they'll keep making like an Xbox just to have their foot in the door. But I think their focus is still going to be, you know, pushing that subscription service, just like Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Azure, you know, just to keep funneling that money in. And I think that's what their goal is, to primarily become, you know, that gaming subscription service with, you know, the title Xbox.
It's a completely reductive way to put it, but like it really is just all about the money for them. They do not care about the culture they're building. They do not care about the industry that they're abusing. Like, it's just how can we maximize profits right now?
I think a big problem. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say we sound like such podcast bros right now, being like, "Dude, it's all about the money for them. Like they don't want you to know that, but it's all about the money."
Guys, I hope you know this, but like companies are made to make money.
They don't actually care.
What?
Yeah, but you can
But
look
I
at
think,
like
yeah.
Nintendo, like while all these other companies have been laying off people in the thousands, Nintendo has been hiring people. And like,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't want this to turn into us like glazing Nintendo because while I certainly am happy that Nintendo isn't going down the AI route and firing all their employees, I mean they're definitely not completely, you know, what do you call it, like scot-free from the whole being greedy thing. So, you know, still I still definitely do think that Microsoft is I think it's fair to say that they're in the wrong here whenever it comes to choosing like a future of AI over, you know, what their employees are able to do, let alone just them firing thousands of them in the first place.
There's a problem in the game industry today. This applies to both PlayStation and Xbox game studios, where game development budgets are out of control, and that takes up a lot of time and a lot of money, and that results in like a ton of game droughts where you won't see a game like revealed to finished in like maybe tops six years, maybe at best 3-4 years. Is because, you know, it takes so much time and money. It's so time consuming to make all these ginormous triple, quadruple A games even that end up being, you know, kind of mediocre experiences where, you know, it's like we've waited all this time, we put in so much money and effort only to deliver like this, like Concord. Like I don't remember the numbers it took to make Concord, but it took a really long time for that to come out, and a lot of time, money, promotion, advertisements, all for that to flop. And, you know, it had pretty good, you know, graphics. Looks like, you know, the budget went where, you know, we could see the budget, but like it ended up as a pretty, you know, it became Concord.
I also think it's interesting that you brought up the whole game budget thing, because I don't know if you guys saw this, but it was also revealed apparently that Nintendo is planning on approaching more like AA size games, which it's already kind of a meme on Twitter where people are like, now Nintendo's going to charge $80 for smaller games instead, which hopefully Nintendo, you know, changes the pricing accordingly if they do that. But I think that if they approach it the right way, that could be an interesting aspect where certain games, they just kind of take on a smaller scope instead of like, you know, overcompensating for how big the game needs to be. Maybe not like their big games like Zelda and Mario, but definitely like if it's a smaller project, I have no problem with them going with a smaller scale if it means production lasts, you know, a shorter amount of time, and hopefully they charge less for it. And now if they charge like $70 for these AA games, then I would have a problem with it. But, you know, if they go about it the right way, in theory, I don't have an issue.
Not every game has to be The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild scope of big.
Yeah, of course. So we'll kind of go ahead and move on, because this is already a third of our scheduled programming, and it's just about like ranting about Microsoft. So what do you guys think about how the Donkey Kong Bananza game, that, you know, that new Donkey Kong game, I don't know if you guys have heard about it. It was developed by the same team behind Mario Odyssey. No one saw this coming
Not
at all.
Let's move on.
No one. Yeah, so apparently it was the same development team behind Odyssey. I just find this so funny that Nintendo felt the need to like spend multiple months hiding this information, even though it was the most obvious thing ever. Even before the Donkey Kong Bananza Direct, everyone already knew this from the second the reveal trailer was shown for the Nintendo Switch 2. Everyone knew this. But then they made it a point to hide who it was developing the game. And then they finally revealed it, and it just makes them look like even stupider than ever. just because, like, why? Like, I have a theory. Say it. Oh, we got conspiracy theories now.
I have a theory. It's a game theory, but I think Nintendo, they don't really. So, you know, Nintendo is, you know, primarily structured upon, you know, all their entertainment planning and development groups. I think they have like 12 of them, but they never specify what number or what team makes what game. It's usually people just see a Nintendo game and they just think, it's made by Nintendo, and they never specify which team it actually is. And I think they just want to keep that, that Nintendo name just unanimous with all their, Switch exclusives. I for some reason know some of their, like, what teams do what. So EPD8 does the 3D Mario games, and they did Odyssey, so I'm betting, as what we said before, they're doing Donkey Kong Bonanza. I think it's like EPD3 that does the Zelda games. So yeah, they definitely have all these different teams, but they just want to keep it under that Nintendo banner and not say, oh, this is the Mario Odyssey team, or this is the Zelda team, this is the Animal Crossing team. No, it's just the Nintendo.
Yeah, if there's one thing Nintendo likes, it's brand consistency. They want Nintendo to mean a certain thing. Like, this is a Nintendo game. Don't think about everything that went into it. Like, it's not important. Just, it's from us.
It's like, this is not a Shigeru Miyamoto game. This is not a Eiji Aonuma game. This is a Nintendo game.
Yeah.
Well, and if you think about it, just like from a marketing perspective, it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue to be like, yo, did you hear about that new Nintendo EPD7 game?
Yo.
Like, dude, that looks so good.
Yeah. I do have a question for you guys. What do you think this means for the next Mario game? Do you think that someone else is working on it, or do you think that we're just waiting longer and that this is our Mario game for this?
I think that this is our Mario game for now, and I am honestly so happy about that. I know a lot of people are upset, and this is coming from someone that's a big Mario fan. I personally have no issue with there being a break between titles, because we saw how it ends up whenever like a point is made too much to make a new Mario game, because then we had the very derivative period of the new Super Mario Bros. Series. So I think it's good that they're letting the development team make what they want, because most likely they had some idea come about for Donkey Kong Bonanza, whether it be the story or the fact that you can basically break apart the terrain however you want. The team probably had some kind of idea conceived about what they wanted to develop, and thankfully Nintendo let them make what they wanted to make, which at the end of the day normally means it's going to be a better game, because whenever you have a very talented team of individuals who have already shown what they're capable of in terms of game development, and then now you pair that with an exciting idea, normally pretty good things come about that. And if the direct has shown us anything about Bonanza, it looks incredible. So even though I'm a very big 3D Mario fan, I'm very excited about whatever the next game is going to come about. If Bonanza is going to be of the same scope and quality as what we've seen before, I have no problem playing Bonanza. I honestly can't wait. I think it looks incredible. I know a lot of people are upset. Wait, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I'm just so happy to have another Donkey Kong game that's different and new.
Yeah, and I mean, Donkey Kong at the moment doesn't have the best track record for 3D games. So, I mean, if Bonanza can kind of give us, like kind of a heel turn for the series, that'd be great.
It only took them 20 years, but they're giving it another shot.
It only took 20 years.
I collaborated with Mr. Dean on his channel where we discussed the future of 3D Mario.
Dude, the plugging is out of control today.
Are we plugging? I have a whole video about Donkey Kong 64 if people want to watch it.
Basically, apply what...
tell them about my channel.
Yeah. Basically, apply what Mr. Dean and I said in that to this Donkey Kong game. Just replace the words Mario with Donkey Kong, and all my hopes and dreams still stand. It looks fantastic. I ate a banana over this. It looks great. I think it's going to be. It's definitely the clear evolution of what the Mario Odyssey does. EPD8 wanted to make. They clearly. This is probably like their passion project, right? They're obviously going to make another Mario game, whether that's in a year from now or 4 or 5 years from now. But, they're obviously always going to keep making Mario games until the day they die and the day they get replaced. But, as a way to say, let's just make something different. Let's make a passion project. We have all these cool ideas, and we have this whole plan for Donkey Kong. Let's do that, and then we'll make your required Mario Mario game for the next Nintendo console. But first, let us do this. And it feels like it comes from a place of passion and a lot of heart, and that truly shows throughout that Donkey Kong Bananza Direct, and from that overview trailer. It really embodies that wonderful spirit that was evoked from all the past 3D Mario games, and honestly, maybe even more. This game looks like it's brimming with charm, personality, and a lot of thoughtfulness within all the different levels of the world. The amount of stuff you can break, it looks like in every single spot that you can possibly think of, whether you break through the soil or you check that little corner for a chest, there will be something there, and it looks great. And also, Pauline's really adorable.
I was going to say, Donovan, can we touch on how you don't like bananas really quick? Because I just really need to get to the bottom of this.
Bananas.
I'm with you
Everything
on that. I can't
about
stand them.
I hate the smell.
Why am I on a podcast with these two dorks, dude? Like, what is this? What are you guys, like 5? Like, what do you mean you don't like bananas?
Yes, accommodate. I hate the smell. I hate the taste. I hate the texture. I hate everything about it. I
like banana.
I gagged from the
things,
smell, and when I was making that video, I was gagging at the thought of it.
Oh my! I don't even know what to say to you. Like, I'm actually losing brain cells.
I didn't
from this
even.
Conversation.
If you look at the video, if you see me peeling the banana, I don't know how to peel a banana open. That's how you know I don't eat bananas.
Oh, well, of course you don't like bananas because you've been eating it with the peel this whole time.
No.
Of course you don't like them. Of course you don't like them. Like,
I think I brute forced my way to opening it.
What's next? You just bite into the stem of an apple and you're like, I hate apples, dude. They suck. Like,
no, I don't eat the peel. I throw it on the street for the car behind me.
For the racers. Yeah, for the racers. I know. I just love bananas because they're such a good team player in the fruit empire.
Team player. You know what I mean? Get out of here. Yeah. We're in the podcast right now.
But even, no, let me explain, because like whether you're making a smoothie or you're just like eating, you know, like a spread of fruit on a plate, bananas is a really good kind of glue that holds the other fruits together with their, you know, like flavor profiles. You know,
that is the most pretentious way I've ever heard someone talk about a fruit.
And I'm right. And you want to talk about pretentious? Donovan's the one over here going like, Nintendo APD8 developed.
I would rather have like any other fruit over a banana. Like the moment a banana enters, like, I don't know, my fruit bowl, it's over.
Well, this has officially solidified that I am never eating food with you in my life, because obviously your opinion.
The aroma will kill me.
All right, so
I might be allergic. I don't know.
Yeah, you might just be allergic to good opinions, because that's what I think you are. Sorry, that was the corniest thing I've ever said in my life.
Podcast over.
Getting back on track. I think we haven't really touched on this yet in the podcast, and it's a pretty controversial subject, so it's kind of inevitable that it gets brought up. But what are your guys' thoughts on game key cards? Not even just a specific one, but just the idea of putting like an entire game, not on the cartridge, but just like in the eShop where you get a code to then download the game and kind of attach it to your account.
It's disappointing to like go to a game store and look at the games and they all say like game key card, but I don't honestly care that much about it. Like, I don't.
Ivan's canceled.
This is the worst.
The IvanAvi channel's
ever.
Over. This is worse than whenever Donovan said he didn't like bananas.
Bananas, game key cards.
I think the game key cards are better than the alternative, which is just a code that you buy on a piece of plastic.
Oh no, I
agree.
Honestly, I agree. I'm just like making a scene right now. Like I don't disagree. Of course, I would prefer to just get a game on a full cartridge. But you know, with the full capacity of Switch 2 cartridges and like the size of certain games, I can see why it's the case. Now, are there situations where there are games that should be on actual cartridges but aren't, such as like, I don't know, Bravely Default, for example?
Yeah, no kidding.
Of course.
I can offer some insight. This is entirely not. I used to think it was the third parties' fault, but it's mostly on Nintendo because I believe from what I've read, they've supplied two different kinds of game cards. I think it's just game key card or a 64 gigabyte game card. And some games, like Bravely Default, a 3DS port, it doesn't need 64 gigabytes to that's just a waste of money. So why not go for the game key card, which is, significantly cheaper than what a 64 gig cart would be. Nintendo just isn't offering like a good in-between or just smaller size options like they did with the original Nintendo Switch, that it's either game key card or you go all in. So some games like Cyberpunk 2077, yes, they do require that 64 gigabyte game card, so they will gladly use that. But other games where, maybe it's a smaller Square Enix is nowhere near as small, but Bravely Default, it doesn't need that ginormous cart. That is a huge waste of money.
No, but Donovan, we're supposed to be Nintendo shills. We're not supposed to criticize them.
It's all their fault, Bravely Default should have just they should have bloated that game with a ton of unused assets, and they should have stuffed it with AI to make it a 64 gigabyte card.
I thought I was joining my fellow Nintendo shills, but if y'all are going to be criticizing them, I've got to go.
Yeah, because that the $1 billion company, they care about us. They're not doing it for the money like that. No, but yeah, I definitely agree. I kind of forgot about that point that Nintendo's kind of like in the rain whenever it comes to like supplying game key cards. But I mean, what I was saying wasn't even like about who to blame. It's just like the situation like as a whole. I mean, either way, I think it's annoying that, you have games that shouldn't be game key cards, but are. And, sure, like it may not be the developer's fault. If Nintendo is literally just giving them a clear, cheaper option, like if I'm the company, I'm going to choose the cheaper option, of course. Like, why would I use a whole 64 gigabyte cartridge whenever my game takes up a fraction of that? So I can definitely see that. I just think it's kind of a shame that certain games are just like opting to be forced to use key cards. But whenever it's like a massive game, like even though it's not confirmed whether GTA would be coming to the Switch 2, let's just like put ourselves in a hypothetical world where GTA 6 is on the Switch 2. Of course, that's not going to fit on a 64 gigabyte cartridge, but like having the option to play it in the first place on a Nintendo console versus not having it at all. I mean, I feel like it's better to have it on a game keycard versus just not have the game whatsoever. So,
personally, if I was given the option, buy this game digitally or buy it physically with the caveat of it being a game key card, honestly, I would still buy it physically because I do like the case. And, well, at least it does come with a card at least, even though it has kind of nothing on it. It's just, it's just a key. But, I do like the physical aspect. It's just a problem, the game key card is a problem for, like maybe 10 years down the line where the servers are down and you can't even download the game from the Nintendo or from the internet. And that game key card is practically...
Yeah, I do feel like people are just like slightly overreacting, just a little bit. I can't remember where I saw this, but I remember a while back, whenever it was first revealed, someone on Twitter was like, game key cards are the worst thing to happen to gaming in like 20 years. And I was like, okay. Like,
yeah, you've just lost the plot.
They're bad, but they're not.
It's like,
they're not that.
We've had digital games for decades now. Like, I don't think this is a significant step forward or backwards. I think it's just kind of a continuation of the status quo. Like,
PlayStation and Xbox have the discs without any information on them as well, which is
That's true.
very disappointing.
Yeah, they have all digital consoles, which I hate seeing more than that.
It's just like, Nintendo. A lot of Nintendo fans pride themselves in as physical collectors, and it's just disappointing to see. Nintendo.
And this is, by the way, not to discredit anyone who wants to buy games digitally. That's perfectly fine. I absolutely see like the advantage of getting games digitally, and I know certain people just don't care at all about collecting things. So if that's you, that's fine, and that's completely valid. But I think that kind of like pushing the industry in a direction where like you just buy a console and then there's just no disc drive at all is just really depressing. I mean, personally, I see that as much more dystopian than game key cards, but I mean, maybe that's just me.
I agree.
Question. Do you guys buy your movies physically or digitally?
I don't even buy movies.
Yeah, I haven't bought a movie in so long.
So it's really funny that earlier in the podcast, I was like, people should buy games instead of like just getting Game Pass. And then here I am just like with a streaming subscription, just watching movies on there.
I do buy some movies, but I do have like a ton of, physical DVDs and Blu-rays, but now it's just, I just buy them digitally most of the time, mainly because I feel like I have this double standard where, I buy all my games physically, but when it comes to movies, oh no, I gotta go all digital now. It's very odd.
In my case, movies are a little bit different for me though, because I'm not really a movie person. So like, even though I don't really buy movies, I don't really watch movies that much in general. So I feel like that that doesn't really apply to me as much. So for me, like with something like music, even though I stream music digitally a lot, just because that's just kind of the most convenient way to do it, I still buy vinyls as much as I can, like both to support the artists and bands that I like, but also just because I like having physical media, just because like, it kind of gives you that sense of like, I own this, this specific thing. So I don't think it's just limited to games where owning physical media is great. But I do think I think it's a fair point to bring up though, like with movies, music, or whatever else, or like books even. Like how much do people own like a physical copy versus even like with books, just like buying a Kindle or just like reading on your phone or whatever.
I no longer, I don't think I own a DVD player anymore. I don't own a Blu-ray player except my PS5. My PS5 is a Blu-ray player.
Yeah, I was going to say game consoles at this point, well, not Nintendo, but like PlayStation. Oh, yes, so there we go. We have our reason to buy an Xbox now. It's to run movies. So
who could have thought?
There we go. Yeah, do you guys remember back whenever the Xbox One was initially unveiled, and they were like pushing it more as a multimedia device than a gaming console, which was like
Xbox died.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, this was like the same time whenever they also revealed that it costed like $500 and you had to have it online to even run the system. But I just remember, like, if you look back at that, most of that original presentation was just like, hey guys, you can run HD Blu-ray or like whatever the specific terminology that they used at the time was.
Do you gamers like sports?
Do gamers like the new Madden that's going to be launching this year?
Oh, you too can watch the Super Bowl on here.
Oh, you were talking about like I thought you were talking about like sports games.
So moving on.
Yeah, that's good thrilling talk, guys. All right, so this is the one we've all been waiting for, especially Ivan. I know.
God.
I know. As soon as we invited you on the podcast, you knew what was coming.
I've been emotionally preparing for this all week.
Yes. So let's talk Breath
You haven't
of
done
the Wild. So I know. I think me and Donovan definitely have different opinions about Breath of the Wild. So Ivan, let's kind of treat this like a debate, okay? Let's have you give your opening case for why Breath of the Wild is overrated, and then we can kind of work off of that. because I haven't actually heard your points yet, so I genuinely don't know like what you're gonna say.
Okay, so I could do all of my disclaimers and backtracking and all that, where I say obviously it's a good game. I don't actually think it's overrated, but in general, people tune that out.
And we are just like that. We won the argument. So podcast is over.
So I'm just going to tell you. I'm just going to tell you exactly how I feel about it.
Okay. Yes. Be blunt. Yep. Be blunt.
I think Breath of the Wild loses so much of what I love about Zelda games in particular. I think the story...
I think the gas farted.
I think the story is awful. I think the characters are worse. I think the core gameplay is really good, but it's not applied that well across the game. Like the world doesn't interact with the mechanics as well as it could, and I think that they really improved that in Tears of the Kingdom. Like, you can do so much with just your base set of abilities.
Wait, but Ivan, I watched a YouTube video that was titled "I Hate Tears of the Kingdom." Though it's a bad game.
That's a whole other debate that I don't want to get into.
All right, sorry. Yeah, but back on track.
Yeah, so like, I think the story is bad, and I think it's delivered badly. Like, the memories, everything is told, oh, this happened 100 years ago. It doesn't matter anymore. You're the superhero. You're the one that's going to save the world. When you look at other Zelda games, it's like Link is always a normal person who like finds his way into being the hero through circumstances. And that's true for this version of Link too, but we don't see it. Like, by the time the game starts, he's already the hero of Hyrule. So my main issue with the story is that it's told through memories, which I don't like. I don't like that structure. It makes it feel pointless. Like, why do I care about this? It happened 100 years ago. It doesn't have any direct impact on what I'm doing now. But then what I really don't like about it is that the memories that they choose to show are like all of the boring in-between parts of what happened. Like, you could have told a really neat story about what happened in the fall of Hyrule. Like, these champions, it was a brutal battle. They all died. It was a disaster. But what you get is like them, okay, we're about to go fight Ganon, everybody. Are you ready? Let's go fight Ganon. And then the memory ends and you don't actually see it. Like, the worst one is when Daruk is like, oh, I hope Ganon isn't like a big dog. I'm afraid of dogs. And it's like, we don't get any character development for Daruk. We don't see where he comes from. We don't see anything about him except he's just a big, loud Goron that is afraid of dogs for some reason. And some of the characters are cool. Like, Rivali is a cool character, you know, and he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's resentful of Link. But we don't see that play out at all. Like, we don't see any like character arc between him and Link. There's no engagement because it's like it establishes him as a character and then that's it, and then he's dead and doesn't matter.
Okay, so it sounds like most of your critiques of Breath of the Wild have like direct correlation to the story, which I'm not fully disagreeing with you. I think that it's a little overblown. Like, for example, the one that I was originally going to like immediately talk about was how you said, instead of like Link kind of becoming a hero through circumstance, you just kind of wake up after, 100 years and you're just already like the destined one to save Hyrule. I don't have an issue with that because it's directly implied that Link failed before.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives you that, like fallen hero has to come back and learn everything in an organic way in order to, take on whoever the villain is.
I'm not going to disagree with that. I just think it makes him a less engaging character.
Okay, that's sure. Fair.
But I think the joy of it is that, you are Link. You don't know what's going on. You just woke up. You are so trash at the game. You have no idea where you are. So as you're learning how to play the game and get better, and you're learning all these memories, exploring Hyrule, puzzling together what happened, so is Link. As he's getting stronger, he's relearning his abilities, he's relearning the relationships he's had to all these characters, who Zelda is, and why she means so much to him, and why he means so much to her. And all you're learning all the abilities in the world and all that. So like the learning comes from the story is kind of, well, Link is a blank slate, honestly.
Yeah, well, he always has, and that's fair, but I just think it's missing some of that character and, like, weirdness almost that Zelda has. It's, like, goofy in a way. Like, Link is super serious and, like, heroic, but he's also, like, a total goofball, like, running around in tights, fishing with empty jars.
I will say, the hero of the wild is a little bit too stoic and doesn't have too much of a personality. Unless you read, like, the subtext where you learn he's actually, a big glutton, and the whole point of him not talking is because, he has this huge burden on this huge weight on his shoulders, and, he just doesn't want to, speak. He keeps everything to himself. But as you learn, he actually opens up to Zelda, and she's kind of like the only one that he talks to, and there's something sweet and endearing about that.
So yeah, I guess I would say that the thing I don't like about, like, actually just don't like about Breath of the Wild is the story and characters, especially when compared to, like, the vibrant history of engaging, deep, interesting stories and totally wacky characters. But real quick, I'll say, or do you want to respond to that?
My face is turning red, Ivan. Oh no.
Well, what do you? What do you mean?
No. Go ahead. No. Get the rest off your chest. Okay. I'll take some deep breaths in the meantime.
Okay. All right. So just real quick, I'll say about the game itself. I don't like the weapon breakage system. I think it's actually implemented pretty well, and I know what they were going for. I just still don't like it. I don't find it rewarding, and it means that a ton of the stuff that you're actually finding in the world is just consumable equipment. You can never have a weapon that you like and hold on to. The shrines, I've warmed up to a little bit, but I still think that they are very derivative and they don't set themselves apart. And the big temples in this game, the big Zelda dungeons in this game, are the divine beasts, and they're all so similar and boring. Like, I like that they all have their own unique mechanics that you can interact with, but again, coming from an aesthetic point of view, I just don't think they're interesting.
Okay, so the problem I have, I'll address all the story arguments first. And I think that everything you said about the story is valid, but whenever it comes to just calling a game overrated, in my personal opinion, the gameplay stuff matters vastly more, because at the end of the day, if we want just a great story, then that's where movies come in. Part of what makes games so... I'm not saying story doesn't matter in games. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying a game can have a weak story and still be great.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
That's what I'm getting at. And I think Breath of the Wild... I have never felt that the story was one of the strong suits of Breath of the Wild. I mean, if we're looking at the same year, 2017, Horizon Zero Dawn on PlayStation, the story of that game blows Breath of the Wild out of the water. But I still think Breath of the Wild is a much better game than Horizon. Not to discredit Horizon, I really love that game as well. But a lot of what has kept me coming back to Breath of the Wild just has to do with how addicting the gameplay of that game is. And not that it's perfect necessarily. I agree that the shrines can definitely feel monotonous, with there being, 120 of them. Even more so with the Koroks, because trying to 100% that game is just brutal in a very similar way to, like, Odyssey, but even worse. And then the Divine Beasts certainly are not, like, the best dungeons that the series has to offer. But even with those setbacks, I still just find the game so, like, beautiful to take in, to traverse the landscape. It really feels like every square inch of the very vast map was, like, labored over. Because it's very easy with open world games for much of it to kind of feel empty. And that's a critique that a lot of people have already brought up with something like Mario Kart World, where it feels like there isn't really a ton to do with the open world. And I don't necessarily agree with that, but I definitely don't think that that's the case with something like Breath of the Wild. There's constantly, like, little NPCs. There's just, like, random side quests, just, like, crawling all over the place. And then on the point about the weapon breaking system, I actually think that works to enhance the game personally. I kind of like the idea of not just getting this, like, incredibly overpowered weapon that you just use 100% of the time. Because even whenever you get the Master Sword, Although the weapon doesn't break, there's times where it kind of loses its power and you have to wait for it to recharge, which means that whenever battling, you have to kind of go back to thinking on your feet. Maybe if you don't have a powerful weapon on hand, it forces you to get creative and either use your runes, or like switch over to a bow for range combat. I mean, there's like a million different ways you can go about combat in Breath of the Wild, which I think is one of the things that makes it such an endearing game to come back to. So yeah, once again, this isn't me saying Breath of the Wild is a perfect game or anything, but I don't really see it as like being quote unquote like overrated compared to what a lot of people bring it up as.
Overrated. I think overrated is like a specific...
Ivan, for clickbait reasons, just call it overrated. Okay.
In my personal opinion, I do really like. I don't think it's not my favorite Zelda story, but I really do love the story of Breath of the Wild, and not just in terms of the story that's brought forth to you, just in your face, all the cutscenes. But in terms of the environmental storytelling, when you're walking around Hyrule and just taking in the views of the destroyed settlement or like Lon Lon Ranch, it gets your mind thinking, what happened here? And it comes up with all of these Zelda theories. Breath of the Wild was a humongous playground for all the wild Zelda theorists out there. I remember watching so many videos and all the subtext of Breath of the Wild. It tells so much about the world prior and the world today, what was lost and what could be salvaged from the wreckage. And it's a story of loss and devastation, but also a story of rebirth and a redemption. I really think the themes are powerful, not just in terms of the literal story that's shown in front of you, but in terms of how you play the game. And I love most of the characters, not Rivali. I hate that. I fucking hate that fucking bird that I hate.
Okay, never mind. I'm on Ivan's side. This guy's a clown.
That fucking bird but I think this incarnation of Zelda is the best one in the entire series. She goes through this entire character.
I'm getting popcorn for this. I'm getting popcorn for this.
No, I really do love her story and her relationship with Link. There's this whole, she's has all this pressure put onto her, and she's suffering from like imposter syndrome. And when the time needed it, when the world needed her most, she wasn't able to fulfill her duty, and it led to the death of everyone. And all she really wanted to do was research and look into the Sheikah technology, but she had other Zelda important matters
I was just gonna say, she's the only one that actually has a character arc. Like, the memories are telling the story of Zelda. And I think they do a good job of that. I don't dislike Zelda's character in Breath of the Wild. But I think calling her... Well, no, I'm not going to critique you for saying she's your favorite. I find earlier Zelda so much more interesting and engaging. Like, she's so passive in Breath of the Wild. Like, for the full length of the game, she's just sitting there, captured by Ganon. Like,
well, she is captured and, like, fighting an invisible battle with Calamity Ganon.
But and I'm gonna bring up the one we don't talk about, Skyward Sword. Like, Zelda.
Oh, brother!
Oh, brother! This guy.
You need to leave.
I love Skyward Sword. Okay, all right. But Zelda falls out of the sky. Link goes to save her, but he can't catch up to her because Zelda's having her own adventure at the same time, and like. You're thinking you're trying to save her, but she doesn't actually need Link to save her. She's going on a journey, finding out who she is, working with Impa. And at the end of the game, there's like this where they reunite, where like both of their stories like come together. And I just think it's a very, that's my favorite version of Princess Zelda. She's not a princess.
But then she gets captured. She goes to sleep.
Yeah, but she's asleep for like 1,000 years, and like if you go into her journey is taking place in the past. Link's journey is taking place in the present, so it's like parallel, and then Zelda wakes up in the present, and like that's where their stories meet. And I guess I see what you're saying, where like it's the same thing as Breath of the Wild. Actually, it's pretty similar because they're in the past, but the difference is that we see.
I was waiting for you to say that.
Can I bring up a very hot take about Zelda, or at least I think it's a hot take, and this one's probably I know this one's gonna piss off Ivan because he's a Skyward Sword person. What if I told you that Breath of the Wild is my favorite soundtrack in the Zelda series?
I think you're crazy, but I'm not gonna judge you for it. Like,
can I elaborate? Can I elaborate?
Of course.
I think it's good.
So I think in terms of just like track for track in Breath of the Wild versus say Ocarina of Time or Skyward Sword, obviously those games have better songs in them. With Ocarina of Time, everything from the shop theme to Gerudo Valley, Lon Lon Ranch, it's filled to the brim with iconic ones. Same thing goes with Skyward Sword. I mean, like the Meet Groose theme I use in almost every video because it's just so funny and like funny in a good way. But even with that being said, in terms of a soundtrack that just fits every single inch and second that you spend in the game, Breath of the Wild's like one of my favorite soundtracks of like any piece of media ever.
That makes sense.
I hope you like sporadic piano key every
Donovan. I do, Donovan. I do. And I think I genuinely think that everything about the Breath of the Wild soundtrack is like one of the big pillars of why I got so sunken into it whenever I first played it. Because whenever I first played Breath of the Wild, this was kind of before I played things that, weren't Mario. So I had never really taken on a game like that, let alone a massive open world like escapade like Breath of the Wild is. And I think that a big reason why I got so wrapped into it is because of how the music pulls you in. And of course there are really like good songs, whether it be Molduga's theme, where you're in Gerudo Valley and you're fighting, the Molduga boss. Pretty much all of the Divine Beast themes are really good. The final boss theme is great. It's like you have great songs in Breath of the Wild, but I think that the sauce that makes that soundtrack so good, it lies so far beyond that. I think that it just does a really good job at kind of pulling you into the experience. And I know how pretentious I sound saying that, but
I just
like
don't,
the soundtrack.
Yeah, I do too. I just don't think it can compare to the like actually legendary and like actually I would listen to this like on repeat while I'm not playing.
Some things that I will listen to on repeat, like the Final Duel.
Yes.
Again.
No, I actually agree with you too. That's the funniest part. Like, that's why I made a point to say, like, song for song. I would, if you were just telling me, like, all right, for 1 hour straight, put on whichever Zelda soundtrack you want. I'm not gonna put on Breath of the Wild soundtrack, but in terms of playing the game, it's my favorite one for enhancing the experience.
I follow what you're saying. I guess to wrap up, I'll say I personally don't like a lot about Breath of the Wild. I'll throw the cop-out out there. I don't think it's a bad game. I just don't like it.
I also think
as
you're
much.
wrong.
I don't like it as much as other people do. And for a long time, like, if you said that, maybe still now, maybe the comments will absolutely be hating on me, but like, for a long time, like, you just couldn't say that Breath of the Wild wasn't a 10 out of 10 game. Jimquisition gave it a 7 out of 10 and got like death threats over it. Like,
dude, this happens with like every game ever. I guarantee you within the next 5 years, some 14-year-old is going to make a video essay about how Elden Ring sucks, and then everyone's going to hate Elden Ring.
Oh, yeah, Elden Ring does suck. I agree. Hey, thank God you're telling these points to the world. I was too scared to voice my own opinion.
The same thing happened with Super Mario Odyssey, where everyone loved it, and then someone made a video essay about how the game actually isn't that good, and then the overall dialogue about the game became much more negative, even though I think
Tears of the Kingdom video.
Yeah, it's literally, the Tears of the Kingdom is a perfect example of that. I'm not trying to hate on like the content creators that do that. Mm-hmm. Because obviously if you don't like Breath of the Wild, there's nothing wrong with that opinion.
Yeah.
The whole point I'm saying right now is at any given moment, the dialogue or overall opinion about not only a game, but any kind of piece of media can change so drastically, you just never know. So like you just said, whenever Breath of the Wild first came out, if you sat here and said those exact same things, you would probably be like exiled from, Nintendo, just like internet.
Yeah.
So, all right. So Donovan, before we go to questions, I know you had an extra segment.
I have a very special segment just for
I'm scared.
Ivan. I watched your hottest Nintendo characters video.
No.
And I had many questions. The moment you said Harriet Brutal, I paused the video and audibly said, "What the fuck?
Oh my god.
That's a buddy over Ganondorf from Tears of the Kingdom?" Now, I'm going to give your sister a virtual dap up right here. Groose and Funky Kong, I'd fuck the shit out of Funky Kong. but Isabel okay, it reminds you of your wife. That's very sweet. But that's a dog!
I know. I didn't.
Goombella over and Fox over Samus?
Samus wasn't on.
That's a fox. I love Twin Tail. I love that. Number 7 should have been higher, but I love the Twin Tail one. And your sister put Luigi at number 1. I agree with that. Luigi, sexy man over Mario any day. Sephiroth, that's really funny. A psychopathic, edgy boy with really, really long sword. Yeah. Wink, wink. Yeah, I could see that being number 1.
What the fuck?
But that's a dog.
She's a person. She's a person.
Donovan, you just got through saying you wanted to fuck Funky Kong.
Funky Kong
literally
is a sexy ape.
I don't even know what to say right now.
What's your number 1?
So, our first question of the podcast today. This is coming from my friend Ian. So Ian wants to know, what are your opinions on Nintendo's price hikes on games, and do you think that other companies are going to follow suit? Yes, probably, and I think that so far they have not done anything to justify how expensive the games are. So there.
Agreed.
Mario Kart World being $80 is unacceptable. Personally, from what I've played, I really like the game. Max, it should have been 70, the industry standard. Mm-hmm. 60 would have been ideal. $80 is pushing it.
I don't think
Luckily,
it's the end of
I paid
the world.
$50.
Yeah, same. People were losing their minds over it at first, and I don't think it's the end of the industry or that it's going to ruin everything, but it is very disappointing.
The $80?
Yeah.
You see, I think a lot of people forget. Well, the bundle is a limited time offer, but it does make the game $50.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to play Mario Kart World, you're going to have to buy a Switch 2 anyways. And
no, Donovan, Mario Kart World is actually a $550 game.
Maybe for Canada. I'm sorry for you Canadians. Price differences aside from, different regions. But I am of the opinion that $450 for just the system is a reasonable ask for all the upgrades you get and all the technology it brings. And you're getting, if you buy the bundle, it's $500. So makes Mario Kart World $50. That's cheaper than normal video games. And you need a Switch 2 to play it, and you're gonna need a Switch 2 to play future great games that are coming, like Donkey Kong Bonanza. So I feel like it's a no-brainer to buy the bundle unless you're really hardcore about physical games.
To be fair, though, Ian wasn't asking about Mario Kart World. He was just asking about the price hike on games in general. So while, yes, Mario Kart World is technically $50 for most people that bought the Switch 2 at launch, future games probably that will not be the case. So I don't know. I think if Nintendo had actually proven to us why Mario Kart World was $80, this might be a different conversation. But they just didn't do that. As much fun as I've had playing the game, it's not an $80 game. So yeah.
Donkey Kong Bonanza is $70, just like any normal game. But something like Expedition 33 I feel like that's like $50. That's cheaper than, a quote unquote normal game. So,
yeah, and it's like one of the best games in recent memory too. So
yeah, if I look at GameStop right now, oh my gosh, it's $45. Well, technically it is a smaller studio. So other games like, I don't know, Call of Duty every year for $70 or Madden every year for $70. I think historically
the sports game rant is for a whole different podcast. Yeah. We can talk about that for
historically video games have been $60 for a majority of its life, and only recently in this generation have they risen price by $10. It's disappointing, especially in this current economic state of the world. I told you guys we were going to talk about that, but $70.
I agree. Ivan, was there anything else that you had on your mind about that?
No, I think it's a really disappointing move from Nintendo.
All right. So from my friend Gabe, all three of these questions are from my friends, by the way. So if any of you guys have any questions that you want us to answer, feel free to join our Discord server where we have a channel for that. And I know we have, prior to recording this, several questions in there. We're going to really start answering those next episode. So if anyone has asked something in the Discord and it hasn't been brought up yet, that's why. We've just kind of, planned all three of these episodes out before all those questions got asked. So just want to throw that out there.
Feel free to ask questions as well in the comments down below.
Yes. So Gabe says, do you believe that Raising Cane's is actually good, or is it carried by the sauce? So have you guys had Cane's? Because I know it's kind of regional.
Yes.
Okay. So I personally think it is not carried by the sauce. I know that's a hot take. I know most people think that it's like, I think that the sauce is the best part, but I think
that's how I feel as well. I prefer.
I think that the chicken is still really good. Like,
I'll say this is how I feel about it. I prefer Zaxby's just because I think Zaxby's sauce is better. So
I've never had that. But my friends always joke about one of my other friends talking about Zaxby's.
Sauce is very important to me.
Zaxby's is literally just like the East Coast Cane's, but Cane's is better. Like, it's just,
I won't disagree. I just like the sauce from Zaxby's better.
I cannot wait to offend everyone who lives like East United States.
I haven't thought about Raising Cane's being carried by the sauce, but now that I do, maybe, yeah, I think so.
But like the toast
I'd say,
is so good.
In terms of the chicken, it's up there as one of the best. But I think the sauce does a lot of heavy lifting.
I just think that there's a difference between being carried by the sauce and the sauce being the best part. That's just me, though. And then our final question from, once again, my friend Kenley. So shout out to my friends for supporting the show with your questions. I really appreciate it. Would you like to see Mario Kart collab with any other games? With Mario Kart 8, we kind of saw this with like Zelda, Animal Crossing, Splatoon with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I think that those were the only ones. And I guess like F-Zero tracks being in the game. I don't have a problem with Mario Kart collabing with other games, but I also don't think that it needs to, because I've seen a lot of people like disappointed that Mario Kart World doesn't have like other games in it, and I'm like really, like, this isn't Smash Bros. Like, why do we? Yeah, like I don't know why people care that much. Like, I
think Mario Kart World should focus on the Mario universe and its own originality. But if they were to bring in Nintendo characters, I would like to see Kirby, such as like Kirby Air Riders coming out soon.
Yeah, Kirby's less likely just because there's IP issues with that. Since Nintendo doesn't fully own Kirby, since isn't HAL Laboratory, like, don't they own
Kirby's
a majority of the franchise?
Second party.
Yeah, so it's less likely that we would see Kirby, although that would be really cool. I guess if I had a dream Nintendo crossover, I think like Metroid would be cool.
I actually would really like to see Mario Kart World in particular collab with other franchises, because they could do like themed additions to the open world, and I think that would be cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that would be cool. Just in theory, or not in theory. I mean, I think just in general, having DLC for Mario Kart World that adds characters and tracks is like a must.
I agree.
For that kind of game.
It has to
Especially,
happen.
I mean, if we're talking about justifying that $80 price tag, if they give us free DLC with like
Please
a
don't
good
pay
amount
for
of new
this
content.
DLC.
Yeah, if they charge for DLC, then it's a completely different story. But if it's free DLC, then maybe we'll have to revisit the conversation and say, then is the game worth $80?
Yeah,
But
imagine that, like in 2 years or 5 years.
Just imagine they announce it's like $40 DLC. All right. So that is all for today's episode of the Special Hour. So feel free to let us know in the comments what your thoughts on these topics are, whether it be, Breath of the Wild or the sexual nature of Funky Kong or just in general. So once again, thank you so much to Ivan for coming on. We may be seeing him on the show again in the future, so if you guys want to see more of him, let us know. And we'll have his channel in the description. He makes a lot of fun retrospective and other not retrospective content. As he mentioned before, he'll be having a second channel, so stay tuned for that. And so, Ivan, is there anywhere else on the internet that they can find you for updates on your channel?
I'm pretty much just on YouTube. I have a Discord server. It's in my channel description. But other than that, I am just on YouTube. I don't have an X or anything like that. So, but I appreciate you guys having me on. I had a great time.
Of course. Donovan, where can the people find you?
Firstly, the DonovanDud channel. As we've talked about before, retrospectives, reviews, the occasional gameplay, and complete nonsense and discussions. You can also find me on Discord, primarily my Discord server, the Nintendo Boys, as well as Instagram and Twitter.
All right, sounds good. And then as for me, you can, of course, find me at the MrDean44 channel on YouTube, and then I'm also on Twitter, Blue Sky, and then I have my own Discord channel as well, so feel free to check those out. Thank you so much to everyone for, watching through this podcast. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to join our Discord server, and yeah, hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Comment down why Funky Kong is so hot to you.